All right. Welcome back to the Branson broadcast. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about how to interpret the Bible. You probably hear a lot of Christians say correctly that they take the Bible literally, or they interpret the Bible literally, right? So what do they mean by that? Or what do we mean by that when we say we interpret the Bible literally? Well, it might come as a surprise to most people to realize that when we say we take the Bible literally, it doesn't mean that we take the Bible literally. What? You're being all enigmatic, Mr. Michael. Um, no, it's simply I want to contrast what we do mean by what people think we mean. See, because a lot of people, they dismiss certain sectors of Christianity, the fundamentalists, for example, because they say they take the Bible literally. Well, but so what do they mean by that? When they criticize us for saying that we do that, it's that they say that we believe, or we have to believe some pretty whacked out theories because that's what the Bible says, right? Well, the thing is, the the people who try to use that as an argument against us is that they also believe that. You think of the most hardcore critic of the Bible, they will take the Bible literally when it says something that they agree with. See, when Jesus says, defend the poor, no, defend the widows and the fatherless. Well, they take that literally and say, hey, you're not doing that. And they try to promote some kind of social program or whatever. They take that part literally, right? When do they decide that we don't need to take the Bible literally? Well, when the Bible says something that goes against their belief system. So what do we mean when we say we take the Bible literally? Well, it doesn't mean that we take the Bible literally. What that means is that if we look at the dictionary definition of understanding something literally, it means taking words in their usual or most basic sense, or the sense in which they were intended to be used. And a typical example of that is if I say, oh, look, it's raining cats and dogs. Well, any native English speaker and a lot of people who have learned English as a second language, they understand that to mean, oh, it's raining very heavily, not that literally animals are falling from the sky. See, if you say, oh, yeah, it's literally raining cats and dogs, well, it's understood that it's just raining a lot. There are no animals falling from the sky. So taking words in their usual basic sense, the way that the speaker, or in this case, the authors, intended them to be understood. Now, the Bible, if you didn't know, the Bible is a very complicated book. And it's hard to know sometimes when to take things literally and when to take things in a more metaphorical sense, or, just using figurative language or poetic language. So we do need to be a little bit careful, but there's a phrase that I've heard ever since I was young, that if the plain sense makes sense, don't look for another sense. In other words, if the Bible says this happened and this happened and this happened, and there's no real reason to understand some kind of hidden meaning there, then just understand that that's the way it happened. And we can use this for a lot of strange events. Who was it? Balaam riding a donkey. The donkey could see an angel standing in the roadway there, and suddenly the Bible says the donkey began to talk. Well, there's no reason to understand that in any other way, is that God speaking through the donkey, talking to Balaam and say, hey, figure out what's going on. If you want to find out the whole story there, look it up online. That's what Google is for. See, but there's no real reason to understand, the metaphorical, allegorical meaning of whatever. No, this is a man riding a donkey trying to go somewhere, an angel blocking the path. The donkey got nervous and started talking to his master. So if the plain sense makes sense, seek no other sense. Now, if you get to the book of Daniel or some of these other places where they talk about a creature with eyes all over his head and wings and I don't know what, well, I think that's a little clearer that they're wanting to say something else. See, but that's probably a video for another day. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is that a literal translation is not the same as a literal interpretation is not the same as a lateral one. In other words, people point to the Mosaic law and they say, for example, oh, you believe that this thing that they agree with is is wrong, that I think is wrong. See, well, then you also can't wear clothes that have two different kinds of material in it, linen and cotton. You can't mix them together because the law says so. Well, there you have to understand that the law, for example, was written for a specific group of people for a specific time period. It doesn't apply to all people everywhere. So when you're interpreting the Bible, you have to think, who was the information written for, or the commandments in this case? Who is it written for and for what time period? Obviously, things are going to be different 4,000 years ago than they are today. The Bible is, it goes further explaining things as it goes along. We sometimes talk about the moral law and the Levitical law or something is like the moral parts of the law are for everyone everywhere. Like don't commit fornication and these types of things. The 10 Commandments are part of the Levitical law, but I think that we can think that since they were written in stone by the finger of God, they're probably pretty permanent and universal. But, the laws about, I don't know, not using two different animals to plow your field, I don't know why that makes any difference to God. It's just rules that he put in place for them. And we'll have more to talk about that when we get to the law. But that's just how you need to think about who who was the book or the portion of the Bible that you're dealing with. Who was it written to? By whom? For what purpose? See, in other words, what was God trying to communicate through these things? Now, I did read one guy that mentioned, and he's right, that you should start your interpretation by looking at the big picture. In other words, you come to a verse that's hard to understand, by itself. And he said, never read a verse of the Bible. Never read a verse of the Bible. What? Don't read the Bible? No. Don't read only the verse and try to understand it. You need to start with, what book is it from? Is it from Leviticus? Is it from Matthew? Is it from the Song of Solomon? Revelation? See, the type of book that it comes from is going to make a big difference how you understand the verse. So you look at the book in general, then you look maybe at the section is whatever book. Is it divided into different sections? You need to get down to the chapter and the paragraph and then the verse. And then if necessary, you probably need to do a word study on a particular word and to try to develop the to develop an understanding of everything that it's trying to say, or the different possibilities. And then you reconstruct it and say, okay, if I understand it this way, does it still make sense in that paragraph, in that chapter, in that book? Or can we say, well, that's probably not right, and try a different way? So when we say we understand the Bible literally, it simply means we look at the Bible and we understand it in terms of regular speech, the way people talk and the way people communicate. So don't try to make us say something that we're not saying simply by saying, oh, the Bible literally says this, and so that's what you have to believe. No. I can, if you want to leave a comment and ask me about a particular verse or section of the Bible, I'll be happy to try to give a proper interpretation of it. But just understand that we understand the Bible as a book that was written, that was communicated by God using human language. And the way you understand your neighbor, your mother, your sister, your friend, your teacher, as you listen to these people, you understand what they're saying, usually, unless it's math, in my case. But the communication is done exactly the same. And so that's what we mean by when we say we understand a literal interpretation of the Bible. Okay, that's all for today. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.